The Black Business Council, a business advocacy group which represents black professionals, business associations, and chambers, held its early elections for its office bearers. Sandile Zungu was elected the president. Zungu is the founder and executive chairman of Zungu Investments and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering from the University of Cape Town. The other office bearers are mining executive Bridget Hadebe, who was elected as chairperson of the council and president of the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners in Bogopa, as vice president of professionals. Keith Thabo, the BBC's ICT Portfolio Committee chairperson, was elected as vice president of organized business. For more on this, I'm joined now by the newly elected president of the Black Business Council, Sandile Zungu. Sandile, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I want to go one step back, just for the benefit of the viewers. What is the purpose of the Black Business Council? What does it do? What is its mission?
Well, the Black Business Council seeks to be the apex organization for all of organized business. We see ourselves as an organization through which the participation of black people in the national economy can be maximized, can be lobbied for, and can be argued for. To the extent that there is NAFCOC, Black Management Forum, just to name a few. They are affiliates of the Black Business Council.
We've had a couple of discussions in the last couple of days because of issues around BEE, the DA statements or conflicting statements, some data that came out around SMMEs. So clearly, in the current, climate, if you will, black economic empowerment is top of mind. It's at the tip of our tongues as we speak. So I would imagine like a big part of what the BBC does or seeks to do is to advance black economic empowerment.
There's no doubt about it. It's not only, the conflicting views from the political parties, but also the need to deepen the participation of SMEs and to unlock all the barriers to their participation, whether it's access to capital or relaxation of bylaws to afford them opportunity to trade in CBDs. But there's a bigger topic around black industrial participation. There's talk of black industrialists. The DTI supporting this to a large extent. The Black Business Council is in the forefront of that. But there's also talk of land restitution or land appropriation without compensation. Yeah. It may be seen as remotely economic, but it's a fundamental of economic or capital accumulation, the issue of land. Yeah. And we see that as critical to the survival and the growth of black business in the national economy.
You were quoted earlier, I think it was Business Live where I read it, you can correct me if the quotes were wrong, that the BBC now in its new with its new leadership now needs to become more prominent in espousing its views on some of these big topics. You mentioned the land issue now. There were issues around state capture, and there could be a myriad of such issues. Is that now going to happen more? And before you answer, one other issue that I'd like you to comment on is the question of where black business is found to have done wrong. So VBS being an example. I mean, it's one thing to advocate for advancement of black business, but is there something that says an umbrella organization such as yours not only should represent the interest of black business, but also should say when things are done wrong?
The truth of the matter is that we are known to have spoken truth to power when such is expected of us. Just to make an example, the lack of a focused approach towards supporting black suppliers in government and the failure of government to pay small business players on time was taken up by us very sharply. And at some stage, we were castigated by government for threatening to march against it. When it comes to matters of the creation of the Ministry for Small Business, we also argued very strongly and were listened to by the ruling party. When it comes to matters of the creation of black industrialists, we agitated for that issue at our consultative conference, and the ANC took it up as a campaign issue at the last general elections. So we are known to have used a soft approach, a carrot approach when it's warranted, and to have been open and critical when it was warranted. We would like to believe that the BBC has a responsibility to not be loud hailers who are just rhetorical just because people expect a voice, but to be critical, but to research these positions and to articulate them sharply in a manner that will receive an audience and an ear, even if they differ with us, but they must still listen to us. So we have a responsibility now as a new leadership to ensure that we create narratives, we own the narratives, we popularize narratives, and we make sure that they become the center. Where the narratives are created by someone else, we must participate and have our voice heard in a constructive manner, because what has been lacking is that critical voice of black business on contemporary narrative issues.
And I think that's important because for a couple of reasons. One, you don't always want to be a follower,
yes,
right? Like, there's noise in the media and therefore you must say something. To an extent, you have to, as you say, drive particular narratives yourselves and lead them. That's one part of it. But on the other hand, there's also issues where you need to demonstrate the strength of the organization and the credibility of the organization for integrity purposes. And to that extent, I would imagine that you'll put more focus on policy making within the BBC itself?
Yeah, that's a very important issue, Harold. What has been lacking in the Black Business Council since we were formed has been that research capacity. It's one thing to talk from the heart, and it's one thing to use bombastics, but you get exposed because what you say has got no substance. It's not underpinned by facts, objective facts. And so we need that research capacity so that when we articulate positions, either in support or in vehement opposition, we can basically sustain the arguments. So that has been lacking. But yes, it is true that we need to step out because we are an apex organization and we must make no apology about it. That we must be a critical partner, but we have a constituency that we represent who expect us to be a business organization, not a political organization, even if we are in support of political objectives. But first and foremost, we are a business organization. Yeah. And even on the posture of collaborating with sister organizations in business, even those that we differ with them, we have to be very creative because there are areas where we have commonalities. Even though there are areas where we are nuanced in a very opposite manner on some critical issues, especially those that relate to transformation.
Yeah, and I want to get to that point. Of course, I mean, the obvious ones would be Business Unity SA and Business Leadership SA. And historically, there has been a bit of friction or some sort of fracture between yourselves and these organizations. So I'm taking from what you're saying that there's going to be a concerted effort to try and mend the fences to some extent and sort of bring some common views together?
There has to be, because, I've always viewed NETLEC as a very important site of struggle. Most of the issues in the social economy that are legislated have to go through NETLEC. For debate among social partners. If you don't participate in that debate, then you obviously reduce yourself to a common jaw soap who will just get consulted when it comes to public consultations.
Yeah.
We have a platform called Network, where there is labor, there's government, there's business, and there's societal organizations where they debate issues. We as a Black Business Council must push for our inclusion there. And that requires a constructive dialogue with BUSA, with BLSA, particularly BUSA, because we are business. And to say, how can we work together to advance the interests of business using that platform? So even if we differ outside, but to find a constructive way in which we can push business interests, where we need to be nuanced, find a constructive space within that to nuance our positions, such that consensus emerges and the credibility of business as a social partner is not impugned just because we want to differ for the sake of it.
Yeah. Sandile, thank you very much for joining us. That's been very, very helpful.